Hi there, Dawn McVey here. Today we're going to talk about die-cut glitter trims. I recently made a card using a ready-made store-bought glitter-covered trim, and the package had several different trim strips to choose from, all of which were covered in kind of a vintage-inspired glitter. And it occurred to me that I could easily make this same sort of thing myself just by pulling out my border dies and some glitter of my own. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I did was pull out some border dies. You can use any border dies that you want. I chose the small scalloped border die, the eyelet lace border die, and the heart border die. And I went ahead and, for the sake of time, die cut 3 strips, one of each of those dies, using rustic cream cardstock. Now the nice thing about these is when you're running them through your Big Shot or your Vagabond or your whatever die cutting machine you've got, you can run these through all at the same time, so it makes for a really fast, easy process. Just one pass and you can cut out multiple strips. I did 3, but I certainly could have fit a few more across my Vagabond had I chosen to. In order to achieve kind of a pretty vintage sort of look, I love this particular glitter. It's from Martha Stewart. It's white gold. It just has just the right amount of shimmer and bling without being too in your face, and it just to me is a little bit vintagey, which I really like. So that's the one I'm going to use for today. I've got my Xyron here, and I know you can't really see the whole exact machine in the screen here, but I'm going to do my best to show you how this works. You don't have to use a Xyron to do this. If I did not have this machine, I would simply use whatever glue I would normally use to adhere glitter. In this case, I would probably use this glue pen, and I would just draw the, cover the entire surface with glue and then sprinkle on the glitter, no big deal. But since I've got this Xyron, and I don't think it was that expensive back when I bought it. It's been a couple of years, but I think it was maybe $20 or $30 with in fact, I probably even used a coupon when I got it. So they're not that expensive, but they do make quick work of projects like this. Again, just like when you're die cutting these pieces, there's room for multiples to run through this machine all at the same time. You can see I'm going to do 3 here, but I could easily do probably another 3 if I wanted to. So again, this is a quick, easy project that you can do when you just want to do something a little crafty, but you don't really feel particularly creative. So I've lined these up face down because I want the glitter or the glue and the glitter to be on the top side. And then I'm just going to turn this crank and crank them through. What comes out on the other end is a piece of paper that will then tear off, and these are all now sticky on the front side, and they're temporarily just stuck on this sheet to make it easy to keep track of them. So now we're ready to apply the glitter. I've got just a junky old sheet of cardstock here that I keep handy for glitter. It makes it really easy to pour the glitter back into the container when I'm done. When I peel off the sheet, I don't know if you can see, the glue sometimes is a little bit messy in between, like in those little spaces between the hearts. So I kind of just run my finger over that to clean it up just a smidge. But you can see this was way faster than applying glitter and glue manually. Do the same thing on those scallops. That one's ready to go. This one's going to be just a wee bit trickier because the glue wants to fill those circles. So I've just got a straight pin here, popping it into the glue or into the center of each of those circles. And I'll do the same in between the scallops. Now we've got the glitter. I'll just sprinkle it on. Obviously, if you had a small container, you might have to do a little bit at a time and then pour the excess back in and reuse it. But since I've got this big old bottle of glitter, it makes it nice and easy to get everything coated really well. And then just to make sure that this glitter doesn't come off, because nobody really likes to get a card with glitter in the mail and have the glitter come off all over their hands or whatever, I'm just going to mash that in just a little bit just to make sure. And you can see there's hardly any on my finger. I don't know if you can see, but there's very little on my finger. Most of it is securely adhered to that glitter strip, so that is just what we like. Okay, so I got all the glitter cleaned up. It was quick and easy to just pour it all right back into the jar. And now I'm going to stamp a few flowers. This is the Sweet Life stamp set. I have said it before and I will say it again. This is by far a favorite of mine. I use it a lot, but I do not apologize for that. It's a great stamp set. So, to start out, I'm going to use Melonberry ink on the largest background stamp. These flowers are 3-step images. So you stamp the first. I should tell you I'm stamping this on a die cut piece of rustic cream cardstock. I did use the Sweet Life dies to cut these flowers out. And the next layer for those big flowers, I'm going to use Raspberry Fizz ink. This is another really pretty color combo that I discovered this morning for these flowers. You kind of need to just play around with different color options for these and just see what you like. Because I use that sort of vintage feel glitter, I wanted to go with kind of an antique-y cabbage rose sort of look to these flowers. So that is how I ended up choosing the colors that I did to work with. And I think you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. So the last color for the top layer, I'm going to use Pure Poppy. You want to take your time, making sure that they're lined up just the way you want. Although, to be honest, it's really hard to stamp this and it not look good. See, even this isn't lined up perfectly, and yet that still looks really pretty. That's all stamps. That is not me. That's a great stamp. When it makes even your imperfect stamping look good, then you know you've got a winner. So now I'm going to do the same exact thing for this other single flower, starting with Melonberry again. And then for some leaves, I've got 2 of the larger clusters and 1 smaller one. So let's do the larger ones first. I'm going to be stamping the leaves in craft ink first. And I do this because I don't want green ink on the card. There's nothing wrong with green leaves. Certainly that's how they are found in nature. But for purposes of this card, I want the leaves to sort of just blend in to the background and not be a real eye catcher. And if I did them in green, they would sort of detract from the overall color palette that I'm going for. So in order to keep the leaves really neutral, I stamp them in craft ink first, and now I'm topping them with dark chocolate ink. I've got a piece of Raspberry Fizz cardstock that I've gone ahead and cut and scored for my card front, and a piece of Bitty Dot Melonberry paper from the Melonberry pattern pack. And I think for this particular card I'm going to go with the scalloped border, and I'm going to tuck that just under the dot strip. So I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on the bottom edge of the dots and adhere these two strips together, making sure to get them nice and straight. Notice I'm not worrying about these ends because those are going to get trimmed off. And then we'll put adhesive on both strips to go on the front. And I've got some paper snips here. We'll just trim the edges off. And now for the sentiment. Now normally I would recommend that you stamp first before adhering something. Worst case scenario, if you mess it up, you can always sort of peel the layers apart. But you'll want to be especially careful since we've already glued this down. I'm going to use a couple of sentiments from my Glory Bee stamp set. And I've got Heavens to Betsy, You're Just Something Else. And I'm going to put those on here together, but I kind of want to eyeball where I need this to be. I want this to be up just a bit away from that Melonberry edge. And that's just to allow me to stamp this smaller sentiment just tucked right up in there next to the Y on Betsy. It kind of hangs down, so I'm going to put those, just bump it right up next to that Y. Yeah. And now we're done with our stamping. Now for the flowers, I'm going to use some just foam adhesive squares on the back. And I've showed you this a little bit before, but I typically like to just use some score tape on the leaves, which just keeps them more flush with the card front and allows the flowers to kind of pop up, and that way you get a little bit more interesting depth and dimension. So we'll start with this big cluster. Notice I'm not pressing anything down firmly just yet. Kind of just eyeballing everything to see exactly where we might want it. I think that will actually work. So we'll mush everything down, and then I always go back in and fluff the ends of the leaves forward just a bit. And there we have it. A really pretty vintage looking die cut glittered border. I hope you've enjoyed today's project. If you'd like to play along with the challenge this week, be sure to head over to Nicole Hetty's blog, where you can leave a link to your project so we can all see what you came up with. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. This has been Dawn McVey with Make It Monday.